Hello, I'm Chad Filipski, and I teach 4th grade here at Keene Central School. My students and I are grateful recipients of a HPEF Educational Foundation grant. This grant allowed us to acquire 5 iPads for our classroom. This was possible because of your support. Thank you. In the fall, I applied for a HPEF grant that would allow us to purchase sound and video recording equipment. The plan was to use this equipment to capture the oral history of Keene and the North Country. This past spring, I toured a number of our neighboring districts in a search for how districts were using technology to enhance the classroom. After visiting these schools, I was convinced that iPads could not only replace the filmmaking and audio and video recording equipment we had requested earlier, but could also be an incredible tool with all of the educational applications that are out and currently in design. Thanks to your generous donations, we acquired these iPads this past June. Now, while we acquired them with only a few weeks left in the school year, I hatched a plan that would take our 4th graders on a virtual field trip before they went on their real field trip, the final field trip of the school year. We had plans to visit the Adirondack Museum. Now, when you're 9 and 10 years old, the amount of information at a museum can be a little bit overwhelming. I wanted to find a way to distill the Adirondack Museum's wonderful exhibits down to just a handful that the children could fully enjoy and remember. I visited the museum in advance of our field trip to design a plan. I returned, reviewed the photos I had taken, took a glance at our iPads, and knew I could prepare with these tools our children for an especially meaningful field trip. Naturally, this technology, these iPads, have a lot to offer. That means that we will have more stories to share with you as we expand our use of the iPads. I look forward to sharing these stories with you in the future. Now in the clip that follows, I'll give you a brief glimpse showing how we use the iPads to prepare for this field trip to the Adirondack Museum, to make it a richer experience with this new technology as a tool to get ready for this great field trip. Now, I've worked in many school districts, and I will say, flat out, Keene Central School is an incredible place to teach and learn. Both teachers and students are incredibly blessed to be here. Your support is a key factor in our school success. Thank you. So here we are with our iPad, one of the 5 that you generously funded, and I'm going to jump right in and show you what the children had an opportunity to do to preview for this field trip to the Adirondack Museum. So students would receive one of these iPads. They would grab a partner, go to the photos, pull up the photos I had taken at the museum, and you'll see there are a number of albums here. Albums with pictures in each album from different exhibits, different parts of the Adirondack Museum. Students were asked to pick 6 of these. They didn't have to go through all of them, but at least 6 of them. So they would have a preview of the actual exhibit, or a piece of the actual exhibit, so that the whole exhibit had a little more appeal, in that they had a little more information to gather once they were actually on the real field trip. So let's just hop in here to the Whiteface Mountain Tower, Fire Tower, and the first picture is obviously the sign for that display. A historical marker which had there was a discrepancy between this historical marker and the placard that contained information from the museum, so the students had to figure out what that discrepancy was. And then a picture of the fire tower. So after previewing that, reading the information in each slide, they could go back to and choose another album. In this case, I'll bring up the mining because there's only 2 pictures there, and when I bring up one of them, you'll see that it's a bunch of small text. I wanted the students to read this. I only wanted them to see pictures and text from this exhibit because there was an actual boulder, if you've never been there, a boulder that contained a large deposit of garnet, so that was a fun little discovery for the kids, along with some mining equipment. And having read the text ahead of time gave the equipment and the boulder and the garnet much more, gosh, what's the word? Made it more meaningful for the students to, instead of just breeze past it, have some information already in their heads to work with. And of course, if you've used an iPod, if you have one of your own, you know that you can easily use the screen in this manner to enlarge things. And in this case, it works great for text. So they could easily do that, read the information, go on to the next slide, do the same thing here, read that information, and then discover the whole exhibit once they actually made it to the museum on the field trip. Let's see, so as just one more example, tent camps in the Adirondacks. Some information to read here, some additional information to read here, and then a picture of the tent that's on display there, and the students were posed the question, why would this type of tent be a major disadvantage in the Adirondacks? And of course they instantly come up with, black flies and mosquitoes could get to you. And that would be true, though I suspect many of the main tents that were used back in the day would have been fully enclosed, because it would have been hard to sleep otherwise. So back to this main page, you can see how this was an incredible way to have take a virtual field trip in preparation for our real field trip. It was really fantastic to see how the children benefited from this, enjoyed it, and look forward to using these again in the future. So again, thank you for your generosity. It has enabled us to purchase these wonderful tools, which I think will only be limited by the number of applications that are created for them. And right now there's no end to the applications that are being created.